Yo, Oskii, good morning, good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. How are things going with you?
Oh, well, Polygon is going through some issues right now, and so everything's on fire, but we're working our hardest to put the fires out right now. It seems to be going okay. So yeah, we've had a whole bunch of people coming to our Discord saying Polygon's not working for us. We can't get bridge transactions through, and it seems that all of the Polygon RPCs that are currently out there to help people do Polygon transactions are all experiencing some massive issues. I think what happened is Polygon pushed a minor change. That's not a minor change at all. And now everyone's hard forking in different directions on a software level. And so there's quite a few of us working frantically to get everything back on track. But it seems like we're kind of out of the woods now a little bit.
Okay, wow. So that sounds like an absolute time and a half. And I guess like because, a lot of us are into NFTs and we've been watching the Cool Pets kind of debacle and there's a little bit of a fallout. I don't know if you've been following that situation or if you can give kind of like insight on it. So you're saying that there is an issue fundamentally on Polygon with one of the updates that, everybody basically has to update, change what they're doing. And how do you think that that's affecting, number one, Cool Pets, and then ultimately kind of like the entire system? Is it something that's going to be able to get fixed kind of within a day, or do you think this is going to be kind of like a prolonged effect on every Polygon project?
Was definitely affecting a lot of Polygon projects at the moment. I think the main problem is like with all this decentralized software in general, is that once you launch something, you can't really unlaunch it very easily. And it's also very difficult to test things that you're going to launch on a massive scale ahead of time because there's no sort of sandbox playground where you can do a test run or a dry run or anything like that. And so it's very, very difficult when you make any change to a system like Polygon. It's very difficult to not break everything all at once. And so I think on a per project basis, the thing that all these developers, including myself, are going to have to do is just spend a lot of time reassuring our community that we are working to fix everything. And then as we do fix it, let them know that we fixed it. And then when everything's finished and we fully understand what happened, we let everyone know exactly what happened. But for Umbria, it just ended up being that Polygon wasn't picking up transactions properly, and so all of the Polygon RPCs were getting confused on a consensus level and not agreeing with each other which chain was the longest and which transactions to accept on the network. But it seems to be settling down now, and this is just something that we're all used to in the crypto space, and we've all experienced it before. So as long as we keep our heads on straight, it seems like everything will be okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny seeing kind of the reaction in a way because we do have a lot of issues that always end up coming up with the Flow network for NBA Top Shot, NFL All Day. They've had delay after delay after delay, and it's not in a good way, but it's kind of funny that this is happening for like pretty much every single blockchain and really proving the aspect of, hey, we're kind of like early and we have to go through a lot of these growing pains with it. So you're Dev Oskii for anyone that's tuned in right now, and we have the Umbria Bros. Barnyard's not here. Is he joining us at all, or is it just going to be? Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is.
He's firefighting at the moment, so he's just unsticking transactions and letting people know what's going on our bridge as we are pushing transactions through manually that didn't get picked up first time round by the Polygon nodes.
Yo, okay, so give us a little bit of a rundown for anyone that's tuned in right now that's not really familiar with Umbria and what service you guys provide.
So pretty much Umbria provides the cheapest and fastest cross-chain bridging service that's out there at the moment. And the way that we do that is that we've invented a new style of bridging protocol called liquidity bridging, which basically boils down to the Umbria protocol holding liquidity on all these different chains. And then if someone wants to bridge between one chain to another, they send their funds into Umbria, and then Umbria sends their funds back on the other chain. And so we've eliminated a lot of the really computationally expensive burning and minting bridging models that are used traditionally that are really expensive and really slow. And by eliminating that kind of cumbersome side of bridging and creating our own bridging model, we've reduced the cost of bridging by a factor of 10 from Ethereum to Polygon. But we've also increased the speed from like typically 1 hour on a traditional bridge to as low as like a minute and a half, but on average within about 4 minutes. And so we've just been expanding our bridge out to lots of different chains. We've just launched our Phantom bridge yesterday and our Avalanche bridge about 2 weeks before that. And so we're just trying to get into all these different more exotic chains now that seem to be the up and coming chains and hopefully bridge the whole crypto space together and defragment all the liquidity across many chains so that people can ultimately just hop over onto any chain they like and take advantage of any like maybe NFT drop or any DeFi application that might be interesting at any time. Keep that really cheap and keep it really fast as well.
So you guys recently have added Phantom and then Avalanche, and for anyone that's not really familiar with those or the purpose within those blockchains, can you give a quick kind of like TLDR on it?
Sure, yeah. Avalanche and Phantom are layer twos. So basically what a layer two is, it's like you have Ethereum on the bottom, and Ethereum is really congested at the moment. If you want to do anything on like on a smart contract level on Ethereum, if you want to send transactions or anything like that, it's going to cost you a lot of gas. So what these layer twos do is they do all of the like heavy lifting on a different blockchain that kind of acts sort of on top, but doesn't use a lot of computational expense on Ethereum, does all the hard work there, but also inherits all of the security of Ethereum. So you can have way more complicated applications running on top of layer two. It makes everything really cheap. It makes everything really fast. But the problem is, it's actually quite difficult to get your funds from layer one to layer two. And that's where Umbria comes in, and we've provided like basically a way that you can cheaply move your funds from layer one to layer two. So layer two is like Avalanche, Phantom, Polygon, and we're moving on to things like Solana over the next few months as well.
It's cool to see all these different ones, but I mean, as someone that kind of, when I was originally learning about crypto, blockchain, and all that kind of stuff, we were like, okay, there's Ethereum, and then the second biggest main one was Polygon. How come there's these other blockchains that are coming up that, you know, I guess are essentially doing what Polygon is doing, but differently?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're all doing pretty much the same thing, which is having their own smart contract platforms, but just speeding them up and making them more effective in different ways. So some of the layer twos may have like a faster block time, or they might do their consensus mechanism a little bit differently. And that provides certain advantages and disadvantages. Maybe like one is faster than another one, but one might be more secure than another. And then you have things like optimism, which is another kind of layer two, which is doing things completely differently with transactions, such as like sending a transaction and optimistically thinking that it is legit, and then having like a period where you can dispute a transaction over 7 days, and there are a whole bunch of like consequences for nodes, depending on how they act, whether maliciously or correctly. And so all these layer twos, I guess you could say, are basically just experimenting with different ways of kind of running blockchain applications, using different consensus mechanisms and using different architectures as well. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. Right now, it seems like Polygon is probably the most important one, but also Solana is very popular. But then we also have Phantom that's getting really popular in the DeFi scene at the moment. So it'll all just be a case of which ones the communities think are the most interesting and the most compelling.
Well, so one of the ones within NFTs we've seen a little bit recently is Arbitrum with the small brains and this Treasure DAO kind of ecosystem. Have you looked into Arbitrum at all? Did you have any kind of thoughts on that one? And are you guys planning on bridging to it?
Yeah, we're actually thinking of bridging Arbitrum as our next bridge, because it's one that the community has been talking about a lot and saying that it's one that they're very interested in. And so we've basically just been listening to our community and saying, which layer two do you need to use next? Because we don't want to make any bridges to anywhere that nobody's using. So the most important thing for us to do as a project is to just talk to our community and say, where do you want to bridge right now that's very difficult to bridge to? And when we started this project, the most important layer two was Polygon, and it was also the most expensive and slow to bridge to. So that was like the first place we started. But definitely Arbitrum, definitely optimistic Ethereum, but also some of the other chains that are similar to Binance Smart Chain. So Huobi, which is a big centralized exchange, have the Huobi Eco Chain, and KuCoin, which is another big exchange, have KuCoin Community Chain. And just with the popularity of Binance Smart Chain over time, we really think that some of these other centralized exchanges who are doing similar things might grow into popular chains. And if we can build bridges in the very early stages to those chains, then that might be a really successful thing for helping to build those communities, and also establishing Umbria as like the predominant bridging solution for those platforms as well.
So maybe a little bit of a touchy subject, but I want to ask it because I think it's relevant, because we're seeing, a lot of developers within the space are really all around the world. And with the situation that's happening with Ukraine and Russia, I've heard that there is a lot of devs that are from those areas. And I know last time you were on the stream, you talked a little bit about your team. Do you have anybody that you think might be affected by this? Do you have like nobody and it's not really too much of a concern besides, just like kind of the global concern overall? Or can you speak to that in any way for the Umbria team?
We don't have anyone on the Umbria team who are going to be like enrolling in the army or anything like that and going off to Ukraine, if that's what you mean. But we're all British and Americans. Okay. And so I think that's kind of far removed from like our development processes. I don't really keep up with any of that stuff. I'm kind of like more interested in just developing the software. So I'm not really that up to date on the whole conflict thing.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, cool. So just going over to the bridge here, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to, actually fully bridge anything here. But hypothetically, if I was going to do 0.2 ETH, you can see down here on the bottom the way that it works, where it says exactly, well, approximately what goes to the ETH LP and Umbria staker fee, and then for the Matic bridge fee, which ends up getting dispersed for people that are in the pool and earn. But if I'm going to send this, just to kind of show it real quick, you can change the estimated transaction speed. So by default, it's set to 10 minutes, but if you're wanting to move it even quicker, the network fee ends up being 0.014, which, potentially could seem a little bit expensive for you, but otherwise it can end up being as cheap as 0.005 ETH. But again, it has the warning if you're down there. So again, it's 10 times faster, it's 10 times cheaper, and I think that aspect's really cool. But ultimately, the big reason why I think that Umbria as a whole is neat, and gas is absolutely spiked right now, I think because of Invisible Friends. Holy smokes. But within the pool and earn here, if you are staking Umbria token, you actually get a slew of other tokens. So if you're staking on the Ethereum side, from my understanding, you're going to be getting ETH from people that are transferring back from the Polygon network, from Binance, Avalanche, Phantom, USDT, USDC, Matic, and then even Wrap Bitcoin. So Oskii, can you talk a little bit about the staking for Umbria and how you guys have the token kind of incentivization?
Sure thing. So basically, the way the bridge works is that we hold liquidity on all these different networks, like layer 2s, for example. So we have USDC on Ethereum and we have USDC on Polygon. So if someone wants to move USDC from Ethereum to Polygon, they give it to us on Ethereum, and then we give it back from our liquidity pool on Polygon. And so we have to incentivize our liquidity providers to lend that liquidity to us so that we can facilitate the bridging. And so if someone gives liquidity to the platform, lends it to the platform, whenever someone bridges and uses that liquidity, they get a 0.2% fee for that. And then we also have a native token to our platform called the Umbria token. And if users stake that, they get a 0.3% whenever anyone bridges anything. So people staking on our platform are earning really high APYs from just how much volume is going through our bridge. And the amount of volume that's going through our bridge is increasing quite rapidly over time. But the interesting thing is, if you stake Umbria on the Ethereum chain, you actually earn fees from all of the other chains where the Umbria token doesn't exist. So there is no Umbria token on Phantom, and there is no Umbria token on Avalanche. And so all of the Umbria staker rewards that should go to Umbria stakers on Phantom that wouldn't, because there's no Umbria on there, all of those rewards go to the Umbria stakers on Ethereum. So as we expand our bridges over time, and as we get more volume on all these new chains that we're adopting in our protocol, all of those fees are going to go to the Umbria stakers on Ethereum. So those APYs will increase over time. But even right now, we have some seriously competitive APYs with no impermanent loss on things like USDC, USDT, on ETH, Matic, like a lot of popular cryptos that people are interested in. And we often have world record APYs with no impermanent loss on those pools. So sometimes we have up to 35% APY on naked Ethereum. So you put Ethereum in, you can take it out whenever you want. The APY is paid every hour, and there's no impermanent loss because you're not pegging two assets together and then putting them both into the pool. You're just putting naked Ethereum in and you're getting Ethereum out every single hour. And whenever you get anything paid to you from those APYs, it automatically gets restaked into your balance. So not only are you earning on what you initially put in, but you're also earning on what you're making every hour. So that's compounding more and more and more.
It's so cool. I think it's one of the best within the business. And again, I've early stages, if you guys remember Kaser way back in the day, he was talking about Umbria, and cool that we've kind of come this far and seen all of the, dedication and completion for where it is. Because, back then you never really knew, and now it's cool to see. But with all that said, you guys are really ramping up some of the different partnerships. And before we get into the partnerships, I want to talk about the bridge and the higher traffic, because you guys have been posting a lot about how the chart for just users bridging is through the roof. And I know that we talked briefly briefly during when Cool Pets released, and everybody was racing to get their ETH on Polygon and start transferring that to a point where, you know, you guys are like, hey, you know, it's time for an upgrade. We're getting that traffic. So how do you kind of see the future here expanding, and maybe walk us through a little bit of what it was like, we'll say, in the war room when this Cool Pets thing was happening and you guys seen really a complete spike in volume?
Yeah, well, we've had to upgrade our architecture quite a few times along the process. When we launched our bridge and nobody knew about it, we would get 3 or 4 bridge transactions a day, and that would be fine. You know, that's no load whatsoever. But there have been times lately where we've gotten, you know, like 10 or 20 bridge transactions per minute. And so sometimes, you know, we're just sitting there on our computers watching them come through, making sure it's all running smoothly. And that's all just a function of making sure that our hardware can handle that throughput, and always staying one step ahead of that kind of thing. But we've certainly, like, a couple of times been caught off guard with how much volume has come through our bridge. But at the end of the day, that just requires us to unstick a few transactions. And, you know, we work very hard to make sure we do that pretty much immediately when it comes through. So there's always somebody with an eye on the bridge. And as we've, you know, gone forwards across time, our bridge has become pretty stable. And so it's quite rare for us to have to unstick transactions anymore. But today was a special case because Polygon came out with a new hard fork, which kind of broke the Polygon network. And so that was a bit of a hiccup. But apart from that, yeah, we've just been making sure that our hardware is, you know, beefy enough to handle everything, and then just keeping a very close eye. Like, all of the devs have this app on our phone, and when anything, even like a slight warning happens, we all get text on our phone. So there's no time where you know, anything weird can be happening that we don't know about. So we think that it's really important that we're just constantly looking at the metrics and we're logging everything and making sure everything's running smoothly. And then when something unexpected happens, like it did today, we're all there at our computers and we're all ready to solve the issue, you know, within an hour or two for everybody as well. So we think that's really important to continue doing that as we scale up.
The rescue heroes, if you will. If you ever watched that show, guys, you know what I'm talking about. So jumping here into the partnerships, we saw earlier today, I believe, that earlier today that you guys have this collaboration with these micro buddies, and you have also dropped these Umbrians. And again, because guys, this is on the Polygon network, if you have been staking within the bridge over the past little bit, these were dropped a while ago, so be sure to check your hidden folder. But talk to me a little bit about Umbrians, this micro buddies partnership, and then kind of your partnerships as a whole, and how those have been kind of just, you know, tacking on, because it seems like you guys are getting somebody new almost every single day.
Yeah. So we've been inundated with partnership requests from all different kinds of projects, mostly on Polygon. But we also have a few people on our marketing team working to partner up with Avalanche and Phantom so that we can become more adopted on those chains, and also Binance Smart Chain. And that's kind of been ramping up steadily. So that's really nice. But with regards to Polygon, we're getting probably 10 or 20 partnership requests a day with Polygon. And what we thought was, so at the same time as all this was happening, we were thinking, you know, how can we make something interesting for our community using NFTs? And we created the Umbrians. Originally, we were going to create 10,000 Umbrians to send out as a gift to all the top Polygon users, so that they could, you know, see them on the OpenSea, read about Umbria, and go, oh, I better try Umbria. And then once we'd kind of envisioned that, we thought, well, if we give 10,000 Umbrians to random people and nothing to our own community, well, that would be a real shame. So we first made 1,000 juiced Umbrians to give to our top 1,000 liquidity stakers on our system. And so all of the people who were providing liquidity on the Polygon chain got an Umbrian. And so now that that has happened, we've realized, okay, now everyone has an Umbrian. It needs to be able to do something. So what we're doing is we're partnering with all these different projects on Polygon, most of them NFT projects, and we're going to start airdropping NFTs onto the Umbrians as part of like the partnership deal that we're making with all these new partners on Polygon. So we're saying to these new partners, we'll partner with you, but something that could be contingent on that partnership is you give us a bunch of NFTs and we drop them on our community. And that's a way that we can like give our community something if they're holding an Umbrian. So the first one that we're doing that with is called Micro Buddies, which is like a generative kind of bacteria style NFT where you can like breed them with each other and create new viruses and bacteria, and then breed those and create like a whole set of interesting different bacteria that evolve over generations and things like that. And so they're the first platform that we're partnering with to drop NFTs on the Umbrians. But as we go across time and as we partner with even more Polygon platforms, and we're up to about 50 partnerships now. We're going to be asking them for NFTs, and we're just going to drop them on our Umbrians over time. Lots of different NFTs, and hopefully, some of them will be really successful, and our Umbrian holders will really enjoy them.
So if somebody's watching right now and they happen to be a project, whether it be on Phantom, potentially Arbitrum, Polygon, and just straight up ETH, what's the best way to try to work on building a partnership or inquiring about one with you guys?
The best way is to there's a few ways, and we're pretty flexible. You can go to partner.umbria.network, and there's like a Google form there that you can fill out with all the information. And we ask all of our partners to fill that out so that we know what their platform's all about. And we organize all of that stuff automatically on our back end so that we can kind of keep track of everything. But if anyone just wants to DM me directly and say, we want to partner with you, that works too, because I'm always at my machine, and the whole dev team's always at their machine. So people can just inbox any of us, DM any of us directly. So that's fine as well. We also have a webpage, which is umbria.network/partners. And on that webpage is a whole bunch of information about what we offer in our partnerships and also what we ask for in return. And so it would be good for anyone to read up on that and just make sure that everything lines up correctly. So and then, just contact us.
Many of the times when we've talked before, we've had something to kind of look forward to, right? Even for the Narni bridge a few weeks back, and then for these other bridges that are coming, right? Like the Binance Smart Chain, and Phantom, everything else that we're getting. Is there anything that's really notable from your stance that's coming up that we should know about? Or is it something that's more, as the adoption within these different bridges and needing to bridge your asset to these blockchains, just the volume overall is what kind of makes Umbria exciting?
Yeah, there's a few things definitely to look forward to. Over this year, we have a massive roadmap of all the things we're going to be doing. The next bridge we're going to be focusing on is probably Arbitrum, but we're also going to be starting to integrate our Solana bridge, which is going to be really exciting. There's a lot of volume on Solana. So for anybody who is staking in our pool, once we launch our Solana bridge and start ramping up our partners there and getting some adoption there, we should see a lot more volume coming through the bridge. But even as it stands now on the Polygon chain, we only have about 1/6 of the bridging volume that the official Polygon bridge sees. And, we're way faster than them. We're way cheaper. Our support is a lot better. And so there really isn't any reason to use that bridge once you know about our bridge. And we've seen that when people find out our bridge and they use our bridge for the first time, they think, oh, well, I'm going to use this bridge now forever, just because it's way more convenient on many dimensions. So for our liquidity providers, that's a very exciting thing, because as people sort of learn about our bridge and start using it, they never really go back to the old bridging solution. And that applies to Phantom, that applies to Avalanche, because all of those traditional bridging solutions that are native to those chains all use the old validator-driven model, the burning and minting and locking model that's just really expensive and really slow. So there's really no reason to use that model unless you're bridging massive amounts of ETH and you're a bit more worried about security or something like that. But even then, I wouldn't be using those bridges ever. So I envision that we'll continue to get more and more popular and more well-known on these chains. We're starting to increase our marketing effort as well. As the bridge is making the development team more money, we're expanding out our operation. We've just hired 2 new marketing people who are establishing partnerships with people. So yeah, the project is just really growing at a massive rate right now. And we're just concentrating on staying secure, implementing all these new chains that we promised we'd implement. And so yeah, it's going really smoothly right now. And so just buckle up if you're along for the ride.
So I'm curious, if you were going to pick only one of these, what do you think is going to be a bigger catalyst for the Umbria ecosystem as a whole? Is it going to be these NFTs that have games and potentially need bridging to these other ones with those kind of tokens? Or is it just strictly DeFi that doesn't really, affect the NFT side of the marketplace? Which do you think is going to be bigger in terms of just, value to the Umbria network over time?
I think definitely we've seen that NFTs have been more valuable in the early stages. And as these NFT projects create gamified aspects to them that require layer 2, and we're seeing a lot of NFT projects doing that right now, that's also going to increase the usage of the Umbria bridge. But I think we haven't really dipped our toes into DeFi that much. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think actually that there aren't many DeFi platforms out there that people actually use. Like there's a lot of, if you're going to use, if you're going to be involved in NFTs, you're probably going to buy an NFT over here, an NFT over there, and you're going to end up with like 100 NFTs over 6 months. But if you're interested in DeFi, generally people just pick one or two platforms that they really like. Maybe they like Aave for lending, and maybe they like SushiSwap for swapping or QuickSwap for swapping. And then once they've got those two functions down, they generally don't really use anything else. And I think that kind of constricts the DeFi space to just being a few major projects that everybody uses, and there aren't that many sort of small projects that have like tight-knit power user communities kind of in the same way as NFT projects do. So I think as the Umbria project grows and becomes more of like a blue chip project and more of like a, you know, top 1,000, top 200, top 100 project, then some of the big DeFi players will come along and say, we recognize what you're doing. Obviously your bridge is more effective. We want to partner with you. But while we're still in a kind of growth phase and we're still young, still reasonably low market cap, probably I think we're about 60 million market cap now, which is nothing compared to Uniswap, which is in the order of billions. And so as we grow up, I would expect more of the DeFi platforms to adopt us. But for now, we're just partnering with like mid-tier, low to mid-tier NFT projects, and then some of the big names as well. But generally just like partnering with more of the mid-tier projects at the moment.
How do you guys kind of foresee this year playing out? Because when I look at what you guys are doing, I would say, okay, for the bridges, it's like, hey, we're here if you guys need us as a tool. But also part of me thinks like, hey, you know, if Umbria was to have certain features and highlighting like on their site, here's projects from Binance, here's projects from Phantom. And I mean, when I check out the site right now, again, like it highlights the liquidity pools and the bridges. Do you think that you guys are going to... I don't know if a promotional type project and protocol would be the correct word here, but do you foresee some kind of thing where you guys are highlighting several projects from all these different chains and being kind of like a global system like that, or really just focusing on we have different partnerships because different projects need use cases with us, or what's your thoughts?
Well, the reason that we're partnering with so many different projects at the moment is for two reasons. The major reason is that they just tell their community immediately about what we're doing, and then their community like has a better way to bridge immediately, and that really kind of helps the health of that project. Because if you're a project that requires people to bridge from Ethereum to Polygon and you didn't have the Umbria bridge, everyone would have to spend like $100, $200 to bridge over, and that would cut like 80% people out of it immediately. And so those partnerships have been really good for helping like those small communities grow. But on the other side of it, they've also, because we require people to link back to us from their website. So it's really good for our SEO when our partners link back to us and we link back to them. So the main reason that we're partnering with people is to improve our SEO massively, but to also give that project a way to get their users onto Polygon. But I don't see Umbria as being like kind of a community hub of here's where you should find your next project. Like I don't think it'll ever be like a CoinGecko. What we want to do is we want to create like a suite of DeFi tools that are really useful, and then become like the standard set of DeFi tools and layer 2 tools that people use to interact with the cryptocurrency space in general. So we have the bridge. We're going to make a DEX on top of everything at some point, but we're probably not going to like recommend to people what NFT platforms they should use or what DeFi platforms they should use. And even further than that, we're building APIs that programmers can use to build applications that are more agnostic about which crypto platform is being used to perform a certain action. Because we think at the end of the day, the crypto space is going to be kind of like the internet in the way that everything was really technical and complicated and fragmented in the beginning. And then you have all this software layered up on top that makes it more of a friendly user experience. And we're trying to provide that software that makes the user experience more friendly. And now that we're in the early days, you know, even the user-friendly stuff is still not very user-friendly. But as we like iterate over it over the next 5 or 10 years, we're basically just trying to create like a unified defragmented crypto system where the user doesn't have to really recognize what chain they're using or anything like that. They can just use the bank of Compound or the bank of Uniswap or whatever crypto-based software they might want to use to solve a problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. So we can wrap up here shortly, but just a few more questions. When you look at the bridge, I think, you know, it feels like it's perfect in terms of like the rewards. You have, the staking, you're getting the passive yield of several tokens depending on what mainnet you're staking all of your Umbria tokens on. But is there anything that you would like to see or any kind of changes for the bridge, the reward system, or Umbria holders as a whole? And if so, what would that be?
I'd just like to see as many chains on there as possible, and I think the goal is just to make it as easy as possible for everybody to get from one chain to another, no matter what that chain is. And there are definitely some like sticking points even now with the user experience for some of the newbies entering the space. Like, for example, like when you bridge through our bridge from Ethereum to Polygon, if you don't know that you have to add, like start tracking that asset in MetaMask afterwards, you might not realize that the transaction completed successfully. So there are a lot of like really like small, like gritty problems like that, that for the newbies might make the whole process seem even still pretty unuser friendly. But then at the same time, you think about like if you tell your great grandma to check her emails, it's not going to be very user friendly for her either. So it's like, to what extent are you able to make something user friendly? Because there's always going to be someone who's even newer or even more inexperienced that needs even more support. And if you keep layering and layering on that support, you can take away some of like the nice leanness from the power users. So it's kind of like striking a balance between those things. But I think the ultimate goal is to just facilitate bridging for as many people as we can and all the people who need it. And if we can come as close as possible to that goal, that's basically what we're trying to do.
So final things here, and I'm wanting an answer from both you and Barnyard, if possible here. Between Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones, which is your favorite out of each of them?
Game of Thrones, I think. Yeah. What do you think?
I like all three with a passion, but I would say that probably Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, Lord of the Rings.
I'd love to be like Gandalf when I'm like 90.
I want to be like Frodo.
Hell yeah. Dude, apparently, growing up, everybody said that I look like Frodo. I was that short guy with puffy hair. So
he's a handsome guy, though. He was. Like, you just look at his face. Don't look at anything else.
It's true. It's true. 100%. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. Barnyard, next time we got to talk with you a little bit more, but appreciate you holding down the fort on that front. And again, guys, if you check down in the chat, the Umbria Twitter handle is down there. So if you wanted to go follow what they're doing, be sure to do so. But guys, thanks so much for popping on as usual.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having us on.
All right. We'll talk soon. Peace, peace. Yo, all right. There it is. Yo, sheesh. Yo, it's fun talking with them, always. They got the insights, they got the knowledge, they got the goody goods. They got the goody goods. When they're talking about, like, being, going from where they are, because I think they're top 10,000 coin right now, and they're like top 1,000, top 500, going from there. Sheesh, it's going to be crazy. Yo, HDRP, that's what we talking about, dude.